We've talked about this a little bit on this channel, but probably not too much. Um, there was obviously a witch hunt that happened in the course of the past 10 years to go after current President Donald Trump. At the end of his first term or second half of his first term, he faced multiple impeachments. There were hearings done, and the Democrats and some Republicans, went after him like you see occur with a lot of, divisive candidates or politicians that, for one reason or the other have drawn the ire of the other side, quote unquote. Well, that's not even really the case in this situation. In this situation, we have something that goes to a new level and really speaks to the corruptness of this whole government. If you want to hit Donald Trump, you could hit him on a lot of things. There's some really stupid things going on. Threatening of Venezuela, the continued blind support of Israel, bombing of Iran, this like horrible negotiation with Ukraine, which shouldn't even be a negotiation, should be just simply withdrawing of support so that the Ukraine has to abdicate, and eventually there would be a peace deal between them and Russia. The talk about how wonderful the relationship is with Putin, and then threatening 500% tariffs on Russia. You could talk about uh, the deal with China, then the non-deal with China, the cajoling of China, then the love affair with China, and then the mocking of the mayor of New York among other people for being Marxists, even though all the delegates and representatives of the Chinese government are all Marxists. So just there's a lot of stupidity out there, but in this case, this shows you. Oh, and also the Epstein situation, saying it's a Democrat hoax when it's clearly not a Democrat hoax. It's a issue that affects everybody, and the fact that you say you're going to release the files and you don't want to release the files, and you say you're going to release the files, then you're not going to release the files, and now you say you're going to release the files, but it turns out that both the Democrats and the Republicans, as you would expect, are completely in cahoots with Epstein, and to what extent and what they did with Epstein, and any kind of acts of depravity. Well, we're going to find that out. But this is something very interesting. You have a House Democrat texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, and as you'll see, the attitude that comes out from the so-called left. Excuse me, I apologize. From the so-called left is just humiliating.
Congressional delegate Stacey Plaskett while she was sitting in a congressional hearing with President Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen in 2019.
Did they reach out to you to talk with you about these payments?
No, ma'am.
And documents recently released by the House Oversight Committee now show that Plaskett, a delegate of the Virgin Islands, and Epstein, a resident of the Virgin Islands, were coordinating in real time Plaskett's questioning of Trump's former fixer during the hearing. At 2:24 p.m., Epstein texts, Cohen brought up Rona, keepers of the secrets. Plaskett responds, Rona? Quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? Epstein replies, that's his assistant. About 7 minutes later, Plaskett asked Cohen about Trump's assistant.
Is Miss Rona, what is Miss Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot that went on.
Though her name was redacted in the documents, the Washington Post first reported that the timestamps line up with Plaskett's questioning in the hearing. Plaskett, who was a non-voting delegate, faced a vote to censure her after the text came to light, but it ultimately failed. Plaskett has defended her text with Epstein, saying that she took texts and calls from many of her constituents.
I've been a prosecutor for many years. I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have.
Jeffrey Epstein was texting with congressional delegates.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you say you didn't have a friendship with him. Look, if he's just a person that you're using to get at the truth, then why didn't you talk to him before the hearing? Why didn't you bring him in for questioning if he's a material witness to any kind of wrongdoings that have been done by the president? Why are you just sending him text messages? Why does it feel like two schoolgirls gossiping? I mean, this is strange. The other thing I'd have to ask the question is, if he has information to get at the truth, why aren't you sending an email to his lawyer? Why aren't you conducting a formal interview? Why are you texting with him? Hey, I'm up next. Tell me what do I ask? What do I say? I'm up next. Like, that's not how you conduct an interview as a prosecutor. That's not what you would do. If you're a prosecutor and you have a material witness, you put them on the stand. If you're investigating somebody, you interview them, you take notes, you document things. You don't just text with somebody and say, what do I say? And what do I say? This whole thing tells me more about you and your party and our government than it does about the witch hunt that you were trying to conduct. That's the sad part. In case you haven't had your fill of stupid for the day.
I'm sorry, but like we don't have ethical like rules that say that you can't receive text messages or you can't respond to text messages, especially if somebody has a certain record and you can't do it in committee. We all be sitting on our phones, and yes, people be texting. I mean, our staff texts us, like everybody texts us, like people. I remember when I had the bleach blonde situation, you know who was texting me? My pastor. Okay. So like, let me be clear. There is no ethical violation. And so the idea or the audacity to decide that you want to strip a Black woman of her committee assignment because she was texting with Epstein.
Child, ain't no way, girl. Ain't no way you're going to tighten my weave and spread the gap in my teeth and tell me that I can't be talking to no pedo rapist during no committee hearing. I be on my phone all day, girl. And I don't care what they say. If I want to talk to that pedo rapist and ask him questions about what to do, if he wants to put his hand up my ass and tell me which way to go, tell me when to blink, then child, yeah, I'm going to do it. Oh my God. I mean, are you serious? Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to sit there and tell me that it's acceptable to be texting with a pedo rapist? And that it's cool because, well, there's no rule against texting during a hearing and asking for advice as to what to ask? I wonder if her constituents feel the same way. My elected representatives are taking their notes from a pedo rapist as to what to ask during a hearing. It begs the question, if you're asking this man to tell you what to say, what to ask, and that's what you're doing during a hearing, what else are you asking him for? What else are you asking him to direct you on? Who else are you taking directions from? Are you really a representative of the people, or are you a representative of your private interest? And in this case, the private interest happens to be Jeffrey Epstein. And she's going to defend that. That's how sick and demented these people are. Doesn't matter if they're black, doesn't matter. You think why? Because she's a black woman that she's more in touch with the proletariat? She's more in touch with regular people? She works with regular people? She's not going to be corrupted by the system. She's not an evil old white man. She's a young black woman. She's just as sold out and pathetic as all the white guys that you've ever imagined. There's no difference between these two black women and Dick Cheney. There's no difference. And if you want to find dirt on Trump, like I said, there are stupid things you can call him out on. You don't need to connect him to the things that Michael Cohen was accusing him of. But it's funny. It's funny. I've been hearing a lot about Trump and the Epstein files, and he's in there. He's definitely in there. But the irony is that you have these two black women are saying it's okay to talk to Epstein. Well, then what's their relationship with him? I mean, the whole thing is just a joke. It's just a joke. It's hard to have respect for anyone in our government when you truly know that they're literally in contact with the pedo rapist. Anyway, I wanted to also talk about Snap because it's something that has come up. And yeah, this is odd. You have the Jessica Tisch, who's the police commissioner, and she is going to maintain her position as police commissioner under Zoran Mamdani. Yeah, not sure how somehow a billionaire heiress becomes police commissioner. Oh, I mean, I don't even know how that works. Bill Clinton killed the local radio stations and independent artists with his Telecommunication Act 1996. It allowed iHeartRadio to buy up all the stations and only play artists they own the licensing on. This is why you hear the same. Yeah, I mean, it also forced independent artists to sign deals with major labels, because if they didn't sign a deal with a major label, they weren't going to get on the radio because the radio stations were owned by these large corporations. Big private business in the United States is literally the only thing that matters because the United States is a private corporation. If 42 million people rely on food assistance in the most capitalist country on earth, is that not a failure of capitalism? Yeah, that's a good point. And of course, I'm kidding here. I say, nah, bro. It's the beauty of the system. The food stamps are used to buy food from corporations who lobby the government to expand good stamps, and it's money forced to be used on food. So this gets to a topic I wanted to discuss. Now, there's been some controversy around food stamps, but this SNAP food program, there are changes coming to it. But the thing to remember about these changes is, in a lot of ways, there's some material, some not. Like, for example, dependents are now children of ages 13 and younger. So if you're declaring that you need SNAP because you have a 14-year-old, 14 doesn't count anymore as dependent. So if you don't meet the work requirement, you're not going to get the food stamps or the SNAP benefits because you have a 12-year-old or just because you have a 14-year-old. So if you have a 13-year-old, you will meet the benefit upon renewal. But if you have a 14-year-old, you'll have to meet the work requirement. Now the work requirement is 20 hours a week. Now that's only if you don't have a disability, if you're not over the age of 65. And that could be a physical disability, a mental disability. So there are a lot of exemptions. And I would suggest going through those exemptions. I apologize. Been sick all week. That's why I haven't been doing this. And maybe I shouldn't even been doing it now. But if you really should go and look through the exemptions, because there are still plenty of exemptions for people. And what they're trying to do is clean up the rolls. So they're trying to get the asylum seekers and illegals off the rolls to reduce some of the dependency and the costs. Now, it's sort of I don't know how it's going to be enforced, because a lot of illegals were um, given the ability to apply for these benefits. So it's going to be questionable how they're going to clean up these rolls. I'm not sure they're even going to do that. But there's another angle to this that isn't talked about, and that is the SNAP program. Is there waste in the SNAP program? Yes. But relative to the waste that the government uses on the 800 military bases, the bombing of Iran, the threatening of Venezuela, you know how much it costs the Navy? It probably is costing the Navy hundreds of millions of dollars to move naval ships into the surrounding waters of Venezuela. You have to run those ships 24/7. They carry weapons, they carry people. I mean, it's an expensive operation. And you're doing this because you don't like the socialist leader of Venezuela. You just don't like the way he talks. You don't like the fact that he's not a capitalist, that he hasn't opened up his country to the private corporations of the United States. That's really what it is. That's the reason. So if you're thinking about the waste in the United States, and you're saying that the food stamps or SNAP is the high priority of waste, then you have your priorities backwards. And that's not to say that there aren't people abusing the system. There are. But there's another angle too. And that is that the big corporations, they love SNAP. Why? They have a funnel system where the United States has people that can't afford food, they can't afford groceries. They have some form of welfare need. And the big welfare state doesn't address the root cause problem, which is monetary inflation, which is driving up the cost of living for everybody. But what they will do is they'll say, look, we'll supplement your life. We're not going to fix the problem, but we'll give you a card. We'll put some money on it so you can go buy the same shit that you always buy. Buy your junk, right? This way the people will be quiet. So what happens? They go and they buy food. They buy the same foods, potato chips, the same chicken, whatever. They're buying the same stuff from the market that the big corporations want them to buy. They're not going to Whole Foods and buying fresh fruits and vegetables. They're going to go buy junk from Walmart, junk from Target, stuff I would buy too. But the problem is that the big corporations, they lobby the government and they say, listen, you need to expand the SNAP program because there are more and more people that are going to fall into a category where they're going to stop spending as much money on our food. And we want to, increase profit margin. And, the cost of everything goes up. So the only way that they can keep their customers is by expanding SNAP. So people are given a card with free taxpayer money because the government pays for SNAP through two ways. They take in tax revenue and they print money. The money that gets printed to be added to the budget to cover SNAP, it's all created from debt. All new money is created from debt. Okay? All new money is created from debt. So when the SNAP program takes money and puts it on the card, it's on the backs of the taxpayer, either through direct taxes or through the debt. Big corporations don't care because debt creates monetary inflation. Monetary inflation doesn't impact people negatively who have a lot of money because they hold assets, so it inflates the value of the assets they own. And then the big corporations, what they do is they do stock buybacks. So they'll buy back stock, which then inevitably raises the value of the stock because stock price is calculated, the value is calculated with the denominator of outstanding shares. Well, the outstanding shares get reduced because the stocks are purchased back by the company itself, usually by large investors, the board of directors, etc. So now those are the people who own the majority of the stock. So the majority of the stock is held by people that have the majority of the money. They reduce the value of the number of outstanding shares. The value of the stock goes up. And on top of that, sales continue to rise because the people that are going to purchase their goods and services are using the SNAP benefits. Do you see the cycle here? You see the game? Companies that are lobbying the government want more SNAP benefits because if you make money, you can spend your money however you want. But if you are reliant on SNAP to buy food, that money, that excess of cash, those videos where people are like, oh, I got $3,000 and I'm spending on groceries this month. The excess of money has to go to food. That's the difference. They can't spend it on anything else. They have to spend it on food. They have to spend it on Walmart, Target, the grocery store. They have to buy potato chips. They can't go out and buy a car with it, so it doesn't benefit anybody else. So even though it's a sign of failure of capitalism, it's also a sign of the corruptness of capitalism. It's a sign of the destruction stage of capitalism, where you have to hurt the homeland. You have to hurt the citizens, the workers, the regular people. You have to hurt the participants in the system in order to benefit from the system. And only the owners of the system can benefit. That's the game. So now you're sitting there going, well, yeah, I don't have any, I don't own the stock, and I don't have the resources, right? And I don't even have the EBT card. So you have nothing. You get absolutely squat. So this is the huge game. SNAP is not the biggest culprit in the waste of the government, but SNAP is also a beneficiary of the big corporate lobbyists who are pushing for more money to be wasted on SNAP because they want people going out and buying more stuff. One day they're going to have SNAP for cars because people are going to say, we can't afford a car. So they're going to create a card that they're going to put money on that card so that people can go out and buy cars. You're not going to be able to use it for anything else, but you can use it for cars. You can use it for auto insurance. And guess what? The cost of those things will go up. But here's the catch. If you have enough money, you don't get the card. You don't get the EBT card for cars. You don't get the EBT card for food. But you have to pay the higher prices for food. So if you're somebody who actually has a full-time job but doesn't collect any SNAP benefits, you're screwed. You're getting poorer while struggling to pay for groceries while the government is screwing you. And then the politicians sit there and they put on this theater about hating the laziness or hating the system that allows for corruption. The corruption starts with them. That's the game. That's the game. This is why this is a systemic failure. And if you think it's disconnected that politicians are texting with Epstein, if you think it's disconnected that the Trump administration has people in it, maybe including Trump himself, who are obsessed with taking Venezuela, if you think it's disconnected that we have an endless policy of warmongering in the Middle East and our connection to the support of Israel and our support of Ukraine in a war that's killing their young population, dying, fighting the Russians for no reason, if you think this isn't all connected, then you're not awake. Because it is. It's all part of the same corrupt capitalist system. Adam Smith is the father of market analysis. He was one of the first market analysis, probably the most famous. Maybe not the first, but the most famous. He did not say to eat alive the markets, to rape and pillage the markets. He did not say to do that. Our founders did not say to do that. The system that we have now is a perverted, destructive monster that is and parasite that is going to eat this country alive. And if we don't stop and reassess our entire system, we are all going to end up in the welfare state, and the welfare state isn't going to be there to take care of us. So it's time to wake up. And I hope that my doing this podcast and talking and perhaps doing live streams, which I'm thinking about doing, a live stream where you don't have to buy me a coffee, you don't have to submit to a Patreon, you just literally get on and talk. I hope that in some way, somehow, will help open the eyes of the people of this country so that we can reassess. Thank you very much, everybody.